an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, Season 1, Episode 11. That text was not meant for Josh. In this episode, poor Rebecca ruins everything. Oh, man, that was a bad one. The whole thing it's hard to watch, as so many moments in this show are, but it's much more difficult to talk about because it doesn't wind up sort of working out at the end the way that it has on other episodes. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Natasha. Many thanks to Megan for commissioning this episode. What's up, Megan Tolentino in the house? Yeah, guys, this episode was so sad. It was great in terms of what's going on with Paula, because I've been wondering where the show is going to go with her story. And, you like Paula so much that you're like, she deserves to be happy. I want things to work out for her. And it's a weird, kind of contrast that usually what's going on with Rebecca is exciting and fun and winds up working out, whereas Paula's in the midst of something sort of depressing or frustrating. And the show really mixed that up this time around and decided to have Rebecca be the one that's going through some negative shit, and Paula is the one that's actually having kind of a good time. And I think that is a good call to have that happen at this point, because it does start to get a little bit it's not even just Paula deserves better. Although that's of course a factor, but there's a certain predictability that comes. And also there's a feeling at times of if you can't do anything different with her, it feels a little bit lazy, right? So I like the fact that they are working on this and showing the different ways in which relationships wind up changing over time. Because that is a real thing. And don't get me wrong, because people talk about the ups and downs of relationships when really they just don't want to be talking about the fact that they're in a bad relationship sometimes, or that this person is abusive or just a poor fit. And people try and frame that as just well, relationships are hard. And it's yeah, but there's also a point at which you have to admit that this is bad for your mental health and just get out. And I like the fact that the way that things go between her and her husband ends with sort of a frankness that I wish I had been able to attain in my last marriage at some point. There just is something that happens when you've been with somebody for a long time and they do not want to meet you halfway on your attempts to make things better. That feels really you claim that you want this to work out, but you're not putting the effort in. And I really expected that from Paula's husband. I thought that he was going to turn out to be somebody who was just going to be lazy about their relationship and their marriage. And I appreciate a lot that he isn't, that he is somebody who wants to work this out, that he is encouraging going to therapy and it's not even therapy, they both don't want to do actual therapy, but that he is interested in talking this through rather than just being I don't know what your problem is, but I don't have a problem. It's fine. As somebody who has gone through divorce and who tried therapy, and it was a weird thing, guys. I look back now and probably it wasn't a great therapist, but when I went to marriage counseling with Brendan, the therapist took my side on everything. everything. And Brennan started to get really irritated. And it wasn't like they were like overt about it, but it was clear from the way that they phrased questions and the way that they addressed him that they were not understanding why there was an issue about certain things. And he took that really personally and understandably. You're supposed to be like opening up and feeling like this person is receptive to both sides, and it doesn't feel like they are. So marriage counseling, while a good idea, I feel, it's not necessarily going to like work out right away with the first therapist that you try either. But yeah, counseling is tough. I mean, marriage is tough. Let's all be honest. So, let's start. I'm going to back up and start from the beginning of this episode because it's, first of all, I would like to point out that they don't do the theme song because later on, Paula winds up reciting the theme song with her husband as if it's a conversation, which I have to be honest, you guys, I fucking loved it so much when they did that. It was so cheesy and goofy and stupid, but also I cracked up. And me and Owen for almost the entire scene, just like we're making eye contact throughout because it was so, I don't know, it was just perfect to me. So we start off with the, recap of like, my marriage is like The Walking Dead. We're all just trying to get out alive. And we get an overview of the Welcome to West Covina, like overpass sign that's like faded and just does not look great. We've got the like plaza sign in the background that has like a McDonald's and California Dentistry. And I'm certain that if they could have gotten the rights, there would be like TJ Maxx and stuff like that on there. There are moments like this that I really like that feel extremely like this is a real place. This is very much like where I live, to be honest. A lot of residential areas, a lot of identical homes, a lot of shopping centers and big box stores. That's really like just totally true. So we go to their counseling session with a priest. They are talking to Father, what is his name again? I keep wanting to say Father Dan. Is that right? I don't think I have let me see if I've got subtitles on. It says that I do. Oh, no, I don't. Okay. But yeah, they are talking about how that they don't want a shrink. They don't want to do touchy-feely stuff. And he's in the middle of like trying to like sink a basket and fucking bonks her husband in the head with the tiny basketball. And Paula is of the opinion when he asks her about whether or not she is still unhappy. She says in response to, "Are you still unhappy?" Father Bruh. Oh my God, Megan, you're right. Oh, Lord have mercy. I forgot about that whole thing. Because it's Father Joseph, right? So Father Joseph, Father Broseph, Father Bro, Father Bruh, right? Is that how that went? So she says, basically, I don't want to do counseling because this is just us rocking the boat and we're barely upright. And I don't want to rock it anymore because it's just going to flip over. To which Father Bruh very like sagely is like, you're not talking about it is putting a hole right in the bottom of the boat. So you can act like not moving from side to side won't flip it over, but you're doing something else that's sabotaging it completely. And I liked that a lot. I thought that was a really good way to put that. And her husband says, babe, we're sinking. Let's do whatever he says. I'm going to give you some simple homework. Have dinner alone, just the two of you. Look into each other's eyes and really connect with each other. Can you do that for me and for God? Oh my God. I love that. She says, you pull the card that easy? And he says, Paula, I'm a priest. What other cards do you think I've got? And I was like, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And he says, nobody likes a hole. And the two of them get this look on their face, but then like later on, they talk about, he was right. We were both being holes. It's just like, oh man. I love this. So, okay. We see for the first time the happily ever after rocks at the very start of this episode. I don't remember ever having noticed these before, but when Rebecca is putting her shoes on in her living room, she is standing right next to the coffee table and you see them for the first time. And Greg comes by, and it's a weird thing because it gives me the impression, because of her putting her shoes on, that it's sort of first thing in the morning. And I guess it is, like, maybe he was like sleeping at Heather's house. And he like, so he's coming and grabbing something on her behalf. And it does occur to me in this moment, Heather could have come and got this, but he's like finding an excuse to come and talk to her. I'm not positive that's what's happening right here, but I wouldn't really be that surprised because Greg is just like, you know, into her. He's finding excuses to come and talk to her. And he's noticing the fact that she has decorated and painted a wall. I think that we saw that last time, right? And she sort of asks about whether him and Heather are really like still together. And she tries to act like this is something that she's happy about. But there's a very big vibe of her being weirded out about it. And it could be interpreted as jealousy. It could be interpreted as like, it's weird that you hooked up with like my neighbor from a party. Or it could just be like, you guys don't really seem like you'd like go together, but okay. I personally interpret it as jealousy, but it's one of those things that's like, it's not the kind of jealousy, I don't think, that indicates that they should be together instead. I feel like it's the kind of jealousy that happens when you have gotten used to somebody really, really liking you and kind of knowing that they do. And then all of a sudden it's like they're over you. And while you didn't necessarily like them that much, you did like the fact that they liked you. And you have to be like, oh, well, I guess I'm not the one anymore. You know, that's sort of how I see that. Now, I may be wrong. I have no idea where this show ends up going. If it's suddenly going to be like revealed that she has been into Greg this whole time in a different way, and so she just didn't really notice, or what. But it doesn't go super well with him a little later on. So we'll talk about that, but it's a hell of a scene. So she gives him the hard drive. Tell Heather not to open the folder that says taxes. If she's looking for porn, there's a folder that says porn. Oh my God. Yeah. So that's why they're the good kinds of plots. That's why the hard drive is so big. So she goes to the boba hut and she is like sort of rehearsing what she's going to be saying at this meeting that she's having later. She says that she wants like the a coffee boba in like the Olsen twins size. Is this a thing? Is this like, were they photographed with giant coffees or something? I didn't know this. When I think of the Olsen twins, I think of giant purses. Is that a thing? Is it just because they like have giant stuff that's like out of proportion to them being very tiny? Is that what she means? Like, I laughed at this joke, and then when I thought about it, I was like, I'm not sure I actually really got that. Did I laugh just because I like have an idea of what it meant, but that wasn't what she meant? But I did laugh, so I'll say that. So Josh sneaks up behind her at this point, and he is dressed in his karate outfit. She asks him if he has a recital or something, which I swear to God was just the funniest thing. He is such a child. And they're talking about, you know, like go like camp, and he is saying, I just keep thinking about how much fun we had. And he has this eye contact moment with her that feels very significant, and everything is like feeling good between them. He's on the track that she wants him to be on. And he mentions that he needs her to tell him what time it is because he feels like he's naked. He forgot his phone. So she goes to work, and she's in the middle of this, like, I don't want to say deposition because that's a term that I know means something specific, and that's not probably what's happening here. It's a meeting. We'll just call it a lawyer meeting. That's what we call them. And she is texting Paula from under the table, and it is, I have to say, guys, I was watching this with Owen, and I'm seeing her texting without looking, and I just went, she's sending that text to Josh right now. And Owen went, oh my God, I can't watch this, and just got up and left. Like, it was not yet confirmed. And I didn't even see the title of the episode, you guys, because I try not to read them before we start. But I knew, like, when you're not looking and you're texting that specific kind of thing. You're saying, I saw him today and he looked so hot and I can't wait to tell him that I love him and that I moved here for him and I think he's loving me too. And the whole way that text was structured, I was like, there is no way that's going to anybody but Josh. And Owen, like, knew I was right so immediately that he, like, left and went to the kitchen to get a snack because he immediately got, like, so cringy. He got that secondhand embarrassment that he couldn't sit still. And sure enough, it turns out that she sent it to fucking Josh. And it is this amazing scene happens where she realizes her mistake and tries to get out of this meeting by saying that there's like an emergency. And when she's trying to cover up that this happened, Paula interrupts and is like, girl, no, we're not doing this. These are all really good people. You definitely can tell them exactly what the fuck happened. And she turns it around and shows them all this text. They're going to understand. Look at this. She just accidentally texted her ex-boyfriend from summer camp who she's secretly in love with and moved here for, and by the way, has a serious living girlfriend, and hands the phone around so that they can all see what the text is. And they all realize that this is an absolute fucking disaster. What follows is a song where these lawyers are dressed as like 80s rock band people, rock stars, arguing about whether it's a text emergency or a textastrophe. I honestly do like text emergency because textastrophe sounds too much like apostrophe for some reason when there's not kata in the beginning. But I also feel like textastrophe is when shit's actually gone wrong. Like, if he got that text, that's a textastrophe. Her having to find his phone and delete that text, that's a text emergency. They're two different things, is my point. But I love the fact that everybody in this room is immediately like, you need to take the rest of the day off and go deal with this. What can we do to help? Connie reads it and just is like, oh, this is a disaster. What are you going to do? Forget this stupid case. We've got to figure this out. I love this so much. Girl, this is a living nightmare. Like, exactly, guys. This is so bad. So she has to rush to his house because she remembers that he said he left his phone at home. And they're narrating her finding the fucking, what do you call it? The key to get inside, the extra key. And she also has to like figure out his code to get into passcode. Jesus' birthday, 12/25. No. Last four of social, which she knows, I would like to point out. Valencia's birthday, 5/5/88. Yes. Oh, God, he really does love her. Okay. I don't know about y'all and your, like, passcodes and whatnot. I use a passcode that is a significant date to me, but that nobody else would know what that date was. It's not like anybody's birthday. It's not like an anniversary. But I always wonder, because I have a friend who's like, her text code to open it is just 11111. 1111. Sorry, just 4 ones. And I find that crazy. Like, what are you doing? But using somebody's birthday does seem like something that, like, I guess is easy to figure out. If, like, the fact that she knows Valencia's birthday. I love that. I love how, like, revealing this is about her character, that she knows the last 4 of his social. And yeah, that's the thing about Josh, but she also knows Josh's girlfriend's birthday, because that's the kind of obsessive she is. It's not just about finding info about Josh. It's finding info about Josh, and everything in Josh's vicinity is all equally important to her. And I think that's very, like, important to knowing who she is and understanding her. So she deletes it. She takes a little too long walking out the door, grabbing his shirt and smelling it. And then she opens the door, and there is Josh. And she had just texted Paula, message deleted, all clear. And it seems like everything is, like, on track as far as Paula is concerned, because she doesn't realize that this is what... And when Josh opens the door, I thought what she was going to say was, I realized that you had forgotten your phone, and I was trying to be nice and come and grab it. And then I was like, that really does sound nuts, though. Like, that was my immediate, I think she's going to say this. And I was like, ooh, does that not sound crazy, though? I feel like it still sounds a little crazy. And what she says, which is that her apartment was broken into, and that she ran over here and the door just happened to be open. I was like, you know what? Okay. You know, that's not terrible. Like, it did occur to me that she was going to need to create a scene of the crime, but going with the door just happened to be open, I thought that you might be home. That's kind of believable. Like, I think we've all at one point or another left something unlocked that we thought for fucking sure we had locked. And once Josh blurts out that he definitely has done that a million times, and also, did I leave the refrigerator open? Oh man, guys. All right, look. I have bad habits. I'm not trying to act like I don't have bad habits. I definitely will, like, wipe down a counter with a paper towel and then, like, put the paper towel and grab my phone and look at something on my phone and walk away. And I'll just leave the dirty paper towel sitting on the clean counter and just leave it there. I will make a cup of tea and take out the tea bag and, like, leave it sitting on the wrapper on the counter and just be like a nasty tea bag sitting there, like, all day. I will cut a piece of fruit and leave the core, right? All that stuff. I definitely have bad habits. But things like leaving the fridge open or leaving cabinets open, that's another one. I lived with somebody, and thankfully it was not a romantic partner, who would pull, like, drawers open to get silverware and just not close them. Which, like, what are you doing? What is that? How do you walk around your kitchen with drawers just fucking open all over the place and not, like, accidentally walk into them or drop shit in there? Like, if you have a drawer that's constantly open, it's going to get nasty. And then you have to clean everything out of there because all the crumbs and residue from the kitchen just starts to fall into the open drawer. Cabinets being open. Oh my God, it's a nightmare. And if you have cats, they will climb in those cabinets, and then you will not know where your cat is, and you will think they got outside, and you will spend an hour walking around the backyard calling for your cat, who it turns out is with the cereal. Like, this just fucking happens, man. And I cannot deal with the idea of living with a fully grown man who leaves the refrigerator open, just sitting open. I will leave it open if I'm in the middle of grabbing stuff in and out of it. If I'm cooking something and I, like, just grabbed out a thing because I need to pour a dash of milk in and then I'm going to put it back, fine. But the idea of just leaving it open and going to work and all of that food's going to go bad, I can't. I can't. He's a child. Megan says, I'm so bad about leaving cabinets open. Also, since my husband is blind, it's extra bad, so I've been better lately. Megan! I just got the most, like, awful image of your husband getting bonked in the head with an open cabinet door, and then, like, a little cartoon, like, whoop, 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 and then the sound of birds as they flutter around his head like he's in a cartoon. Girl, close the cabinets. Do you have cats? Do you want them to get in on your cereal? He definitely has walked into them. Oh, Megan, I'm not sure I could forgive that if I were him. He's a saint. I can see them, and I couldn't forgive that. Oh, my God. Yeah, no, I can't handle it. It's just like, there are little things like that I know that I have my own bad habits, but because I'm biased, of course, I think that my bad habits are less awful than other bad habits. And that's really not fair, right? I think what determines it for me is if I am making work for somebody else, if I'm doing something that inconveniences a lot of other people, I find that to be like really inexcusable. If I leave stuff on the counter, I'm the one who uses the kitchen. It's not like Owen's going to be cleaning up after me when he makes dinner. I cook. I do the cleaning in the kitchen as well. And we won't get into whether or not that's fair. I think it's probably fair, to be honest. But I am the one who winds up having to clean up my own mess in the end, you know? The other one that gets me is that Owen, when he gets up from the table, he leaves his chair pushed out. And he does this no matter where we're eating. So sometimes if we're like at a restaurant, he will block an entire walkway, just leaving his chair out. I don't know why. Just push it back in. Push it. Anyway. So Paula gets this text, and it turns out that she is at dinner with her husband at this time, that they are supposed to be having their connection dinner. And he asks her to put her phone away. And she says, you're right. Let's do this. Let's connect. And they both fold their hands and look at one another. And it is excruciating. Guys, have any of you been in this kind of relationship where you're trying so much to like be a couple in the way that you know that you're kind of like supposed to be? Oh, it's bad, man. This is bad. The looks that they get on their faces, like, it's really quite amazing to realize that you live with someone and are married to somebody and you have nothing to say to them. Like, it's just alarming. And what winds up happening is a perfect solution. They wind up getting into a scrape together, basically. And that is a totally new experience, something that neither of them has ever done. And it's excellent. It's exactly what the doctor ordered. But in this moment, I was just like, oh my God, I don't know if I can take this. This is horrible. So they realize that they don't know what they're supposed to be doing. And he says, maybe we should hold hands. But they're trying to eat dinner and they have steaks, I think, or something that they really need to cut with a knife and they can't do with just one hand. Y'all, I love this so much. I love this whole scene. I love it so much. I love her trying to cut her steak with her fork and fucking just plucking the whole thing up and holding it out for him to bite a chunk off of like he's a goddamn caveman. It is all just so excellent. So we have Rebecca trying to explain to Josh that her house was broken into. He wants to comfort her. I'll make sure it's all okay. I'll come back with you to your place. And she texts Paula and says, I need you to go to my house and throw a rock through my sliding glass door, okay? And there's a moment of Paula looking completely puzzled, and then she just says, copy that. And her husband is like, what are you doing? Was that you said that was your mom. Did you say copy that to your mom? And he says, no. I don't buy this. Somebody has been calling you all the time. You think I haven't noticed? And I love this because he thinks that she's having an affair, which, you know what? Why wouldn't you think that? It is so understandable that he doesn't think, oh, this is just a friend that you're doing a bunch of weird shit with because she's young and like has fucking drama in her life. No, he thinks that she's like meeting some dude, which of course, I just love this so much. If you walk out that door without me, you're rocking the boat in the bad way, big time. She says, fine, come with me then, okay? But you cannot ask any questions. And he's just like, huh, okay. Like you can see his interest is piqued. So Josh goes and gets some gloves and he's like, we're going to go back to your house and we're going to clean up that broken glass. And she says, first, can I get a glass of water and a toast with almond butter and a sliced apple cut into very thin slices? And he just kind of like stares at her and she goes, and like smiles weirdly and shrugs. And it is super funny to me. I don't know why. There are actual jokes in this show that I don't find as funny as some of the like little moments like that, which I find hilarious. And I think it's because of her facial expressions and the way that she like moves. And the sort of like self-awareness of her, like, I know that I seem nuts right now. Like, I have to, sorry. Like, I totally love it so much. So finally, we see what's going on with Paula and her husband, and they're trying to find a rock, and he winds up finding a perfect rock, and she is very impressed. The fact that he wants to help her find a rock in the first place, she is very impressed and happy with. But he has to use the bathroom, and she tells him to use the sliding glass door, which is always open, and go in there and use Rebecca's bathroom and then help her find the rock. So she gets a text from Rebecca. We're almost there. And she's freaking out. And he comes out and he says, Paula, look. And oh my God, babe, it's beautiful. It's textbook. It's like the image you get when you Google the word rock. And he says, now what do we do? And she says, go, 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 go. They run in there. And she tells him that he has to throw it through the glass. And he's like, what? I am not. What are you talking about? And she says, the boat is sinking. Throw it through. So he does. And the entire like glass door completely collapses. It doesn't just put a hole through it. The whole thing goes down. They run off. And it seems to us that this is all gone to plan, right? And Rebecca is meanwhile having to explain to Josh why she didn't call the police about the whole thing. And he is, it turns out, not of the same mind as she is, and has called the police himself, which leads to Rebecca having to go through this whole thing with the cops. It's really amazing. First of all, this cop that shows up is so great. This guy's swagger. Don't worry, I'm here now. And rest assured, ma'am, I won't stop till I get to the bottom of this. And he's got this face. Like, this cop is so good. I love him so much. It's like he is a rookie imitating Raylan Givens from Justified. Like, he's trying, except that he has it wrong, you know. And she has to explain that nothing was actually stolen and that it was probably just vandalism. And even if it was vandalism, there's no like point in filing a report when nothing was actually stolen and the vandalism isn't even easy to prove because they don't have like a means of it, you know, there's no point in him doing all of the work when this is a case that's like likely never to be solved. I also love the fact that as both he and Josh ask her questions about what happened, she keeps screaming slow down at the top of her lungs. I love that detail so much. And I love that that keeps coming up. And she does wind up sort of convincing the guy. Let's get you back on the streets, Officer Rhodes. Yeah, sorry, officer. Or you're welcome to stay for some fondue. And he says, oh, I wish. Love those steak cubes. And Josh says, wait, what? I thought it was cheese. So they're about to have a drink. And when... It's so bad, guys. I hate this so much. He is helping her clean up. And he finds the rock that was thrown through her window under a chair. And he says the rock they threw in the window, it's a perfect rock, textbook. And she sees on the bottom that it says ever, and looks and realizes that the rock is from inside her house. Now look, guys. All she needs to say is that we don't know that's the rock they threw. We could just say, like, I know that it doesn't, but she freezes up so completely, and saying anything would be better than just staring at him and having no explanation. It could be, like, she could say, I thought it was weird that they broke that door when I leave the screen door or the glass door open all the time. So maybe they just did it to be an asshole. There's just any number of like weird, who knows, maybe they did this, but she completely shuts down. And we get all of the like 80s rocker lawyers gathered around her singing. And I love this so much. They are being like, if the rock came from inside your house, that means he has to believe that someone broke into your house and then picked up a rock and then went outside and threw it through your window. And that would be a super weird crime. He's not the brightest, but he's not as dumb as a rock. See what I did there? And yeah, sure enough, he realizes. And she just watches him figuring it out with this look of like absolute horror on her face. And she looks at him and then looks down at the rocks that are on like underneath her, what do you call it? Coffee table. Guys, if she just hadn't looked, would Josh have figured this out? Her eyes lead him to exactly where that came from. Why, like, if he picks it up and you realize it says ever, be like, wait, is that the rock they threw? Why would they how could they have gotten inside though? That rock is from right here. See? That's the ever rock right there. Why would they have gone outside? This doesn't make any sense. And you act as puzzled as him. That's the key. You go, I don't get it. Did they get into my house some other way and then just do this to be a dickhead? Did they just like have fun breaking my window? That's such a shitty thing. I can't believe that they used my own rock to do this. What the fuck? There is any number of ways you could play this. Look, I'm not proud of it, but I can be a really good liar when I need to be. You all have heard me fake out Rashawn when she has started to get a little bit too close to a spoiler and I have to pretend that shit ain't real. You know that I can do this. The key is to join that person in their bafflement, right? And just be like, holy shit. God. And then be like, maybe it's this. No, that doesn't make any sense. Well, maybe it was just somebody being an asshole. And when you say something like that, people are like, well, folks do be loving to be assholes. Maybe that is what it is. But no, she just watches him. And he is like, so this goes, and he puts the rock down and is like, if this is your rock, then it means that either you threw this or whoever threw it got it from in your house. Now, and she like, it's too delayed. That is so... It does look like my rock. That's weird. It's too late. It's too late. And she knows it's too late. And that makes the fact that she decides to, like, go this way even worse. If she had just caved and said something that was admitting some kind of guilt, but not necessarily this guilt. Okay, look. Yeah, it's my rock. That was really what freaked me out. They were in my house when I got home. I don't know. Something like this. I grabbed the rock. I did something, whatever. Think of something and act like you're confessing a thing. That would also work. Act like he caught you out and now you have to, like, tell him the real thing. But instead she waits too long and looks too guilty and then tries to act like this doesn't make any sense. Oh, I have no idea, whatever. So I think I know what happened. The burglar came into the house to steal something, but because I live a very simple life, he didn't find anything to steal. And in a fit of rage, offended by the inspirational phrases of my rocks because he has a hard life. Oh, girl. No. Went outside just to stick it to me. Like, she's doing what I said she should have done, except, like, real bad. Right? And he says, what you're saying doesn't make any sense. None of this makes sense. And she says, okay, you're right. There's got to be another explanation. And he says, you know what? Don't explain. I don't want to know. I don't know why. I don't want to know why I'm here tonight. I don't even want to know why you were in my apartment before. I gotta go. And she's chasing after him and she starts to say, Josh, I love you. And he stops and looks at her and she says, I love that you came to my rescue tonight. And he just sort of nods and doesn't reply and walks out. I cannot imagine what you can say to fix this. And that's exactly where she's at by the end of this episode. She says that she has ruined everything. I honestly cannot, because the situation earlier with him finding the rock, that's something we can work with. We can tell the right lie. We can distract from it. We can do any number of things, right? This is something that the way that this ends, I cannot think of an approach from here. I don't know if there's anything that she can do other than sort of sit and wait and hope that he decides to come back around and talk to her about this again. And maybe by then she'll have come up with a better lie, or she'll tell him the truth that look, I sent you a text. I was in your house trying to delete it from your phone. I know that sounds nuts, but and if she had just went with that, the thing is, if she says that, she has to explain why there was a rock thrown through her door. And there isn't a good way to say this. Either I was basically in a fit of rage for some reason, threw it and broke my own window, and I was too ashamed to say that it was me or that I had lost my temper. Or you could say, I called my friend and told her to come break my window real quick to support my story, which also sounds fucking bonkers. So I just don't really know what the fuck she can say right now. I don't know. There's just not, and Josh is going to have to reach a point where he sort of understands something more about the situation, or that he decides that it was one weird incident and he isn't going to hold that against her. And I don't really see that happening because he's given her an excuse over a lot of her behavior. And everybody's got their own line that they are just okay, you've just gone too far now. I can't help but think this was all bad enough, but she might have been okay if she didn't start to blurt out, Josh, I love you. She says, I'm really glad you came to my rescue tonight in the end, but from the look on his face, he knows what she was actually going to say, I think. I don't know. I mean, and the other factor is it has seemed like he has been developing feelings for her on the DL. So will that help her case? It might. We're all more willing to sort of excuse things because somebody that we love is the one who did it. That's just human nature. So maybe, despite the fact that this looks really bad, that this looks like a fucking unsolved mystery, maybe he'll just get over it. I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, she is like so fucking bummed at this point. And we get a song that is sung in the style of like a Celine Dion in, in Vegas. And she's singing about how you ruined everything, you stupid bitch. And honestly, this is a relatable song. This is definitely a song that I might play at some point for myself. Self-indulgent self-loathing. And I love that this dude turns up from this place called Fondue Me. Bless him. And guys, how long have any of you had fondue? And if not, would you be interested? Because I've made fondue and it was extremely delicious. It was like a white wine and Gruyere or something. It was lovely. But I made it because it was like a snowstorm, I think, and I could not get out of the house to like get actual food. And literally all I had was like bread and cheese and some old wine. And I cannot imagine getting excited about fondue under other circumstances, which is weird because I love cheese and bread. I love them. I love them. But it just sounds like so depressing to me, you know? And this guy who is really adorable is talking to her about the cheese not congealing in transit. If you could get the word out about that, it would really help us out. And she says, he held me in his arms, and just now he could barely look me in the eye. All of my dreams may have just been shattered. And this guy's like, oh, okay, so you're not talking about the cheese. And she is singing this song, You Stupid Bitch, when who should turn up but Greg? Greg is right about himself, 100%. Rebecca is literally just sitting beside her shattered back door and looking like she's going to cry. Probably had been crying. And Greg turns up and is just like, oh my God, are you okay? Do you want to tell me what happened? And she shakes her head. And he's like, all right, well, let me help you. What can I do? Come on, let's get this mess cleaned up and then you can tell me what happened. And she says, just leave it. I'll get it later. Can you just stay with me for a little while? I can't be alone right now. And he says, okay, yeah, but I do want to get this cleaned up though. Come on. And he starts to do that. He grabs the dustpan and the broom and is cleaning all of that up and really seems genuinely concerned about how she's doing. And then she says, are you hungry? I have some fondue that's clumping together. And he says, actually, I am pretty hungry. And he looks over at the dining table that has the fondue on it. And he realizes that there is 2 glasses sitting there. And he notices that there's fondue for 2. And figures out that he just walked in on a post-Josh Chan meltdown. And it's such a shame because he realizes this after her embracing him and thanking him for always being here when she needs him. And just overall, it is a moment of him seeming really gratified by the attention that he's getting from her. So then when he looks up and sees all of this, he's like, yeah, okay, cool. You were about to have dinner and a date with Valencia's boyfriend. And she's like, oh my God, that is not what happened. And he says, you guys had some kind of scene and a window broke and look who's cleaning it up. I am literally cleaning up your mess. And she says, why are you mad at me? And he says, I'm not mad at you. I am mad at myself. There are other ways to get out of this building, but I chose to walk by your patio. I put myself here. My girlfriend is 20 feet through that wall, and yet I'm standing here. I've got to go. Greg, I kind of want to applaud you because honestly, this is the truest shit. I appreciate how honest he is being with himself about this. And it all ties in very well with him feeling like as soon as somebody starts to care about him, that he is going to lose them or that they are going to leave. Like, that's how you prevent yourself from getting hurt, is you love somebody that will never love you back, or at least doesn't at the moment. And so I feel like this all works really well, is that he's into this girl that he can't really have because that's safer. And the girl that he can have, who likes him back, who's a pretty decent match for him, to be honest, isn't, like, as interesting to him, isn't as much of a draw to him. And she tries to stop him and says, I just want someone to be here with me. And he says, yeah, exactly. Someone. That's the problem. And he just walks away and says, feel better, bunch. Oh, and I forgot that the fondue bag literally says Josh's name on it, too. So he wasn't, like, leaping to terrible conclusions here just because there was food for two people. It literally said Josh on the bag. So then we have the amazing scene of Paula and her husband talking through everything. Now, earlier, there was a moment of them eating sandwiches standing up. They were trying to have dinner earlier, got interrupted, and then they both reached an agreement where they were just eating burritos, I think. And he wants to know exactly what happened, and she says, you're going to have to try and get it out of me. And they're flirting with each other a little bit. And she looks at him finally and says, I'm sorry. I know I've been distant lately, and it's not just because I almost had an affair with a hunky industrial real estate tycoon from Tucson. And she says it, and she's looking at him and he says, what? And she's like, look, it's a long story. Nothing actually happened. And then he says, well, I feel a lot better about the fact that I almost slept with Misty from shipping. And she stops and says, Misty, really? And then, I can see that she has slut face, which I'm like, Paula, what are you doing? But this is the moment when he says, we've both been major holes, huh? And she says, I don't want another man. The only thing I've been cheating on you with is Rebecca's love life. And then she tells him she's so in love, and it's been so intoxicating to witness it in its purest form. I'm addicted. And I love this because this is what romance novels are for, right? It's for spicing things up, for reading about somebody having that feeling of butterflies, that first moment when things have calmed down for you. And it's not even necessarily that you're unhappy. It's just you've reached a different point in a relationship, and it's not that sort of butterfly feeling, at least all the time, like it used to be, and you miss it. And that's natural. I mean, there's nothing quite like the high of the beginning of a new relationship when you haven't actually established how you feel about each other. And neither of you is saying it, and you suspect it, and you think they suspect it, but you haven't actually come to one another and just said the words. And it's just so understandable to me why Paula is feeling this way about this whole thing. So this is when they do the opening scene, or the opening song. And then when we go back to them later was there's this like great moment of him talking to her about everything that she has told him. And he says something about how Greg and her might actually be a good couple. And she's like, keep your eyes on the prize. Rebecca and Josh have an epic and pure love that spans decades and mountains, which I love the fact that she says this. Good point. She did admit she loved Josh after the bus trip. And she says, yes, very good. And did I tell you about how I got her invited to Josh's parents' house for Thanksgiving? And he says, was that when she got a kiss on the cheek? No. That was when they went to camp. And he's saying this and walking away. And she grabs him and kisses him and says, God, it's so sexy when you listen. And then he comes up to her and grabs her and puts her up on the counter. And it is the most adorable thing in the entire world. And I loved it so much. Like, honestly, it's sort of, what's the word I want? It's a bit of a cliche that like women want men to listen to them, but like truly men don't understand how much their interests are taken at like default. Like if you are a dude who is interested in XYZ, it is just taken more seriously. And I don't think that a lot, and even women understand how much we are trained to denigrate anything that tends to be interesting to women. So both men and women will tune out if it's something that's like tends to be of interest to women, either as a group or a woman in the moment. And that tuning out is something that happens like without people even quite realizing it's happening, but it does. And when you are on the receiving end of everybody tuning out, it is very apparent that that's what's going on. And I just love that this is what brings her and her husband back together, is this like moment of connecting over Rebecca's love life. So we go then to the final moments at the boba garden, the boba tea garden. And she comes in and wants to know what happened, and she's all bright and happy and feeling like she's about to obviously get good news from Rebecca, because the last thing that she heard from her was that she deleted the text and all is well. Rebecca, of course, is like in a bad place. And we're talking the kind of bad place where Rebecca doesn't even want to tell her what happened. Now, this is one of those things that I am probably a less good person, because had I been Rebecca in this situation, I would have been like, did you use one of my own rocks to break my window? Is this really what happened? Not even like blaming her for it exactly, but just being like, girl. And obviously this whole situation is of Rebecca's own making. Of course it is. But I would definitely be like, oh my God. And that would be enough information for Paula to be able to put it together, what probably actually wound up happening, and that he put two and two together. But Rebecca is better than me. And she's just like, no, it was a disaster. I don't even want to tell you about it. It's like so bad that you can't even imagine. And Paula tries to be like, you two are meant for each other. This is going to work out. And she's determined to say, I ruined things. And Paula has to tell her about how what's going on with her, like, brought her and her husband together. And she says, she's like, look at this text from Scott. Look at all these emojis. He sent me a panda and a unicorn, 11 different kinds of hearts. And then she scrolls down and accidentally, I think, gets a dick pic, which is hilarious. And Paula says something about how she's pretty sure she has a UTI right now. Oh my God, Paula, bless your heart. But she says, you and Josh are on a journey. There's going to be peaks, but there's also going to be valleys. And yes, maybe even a long, dry, flat plateau called My Kids Are Little, Don't Touch Me. But the valleys are going to make those peaks even sweeter. So take a deep breath. And Rebecca, bad at taking deep breaths. Look how beautiful it is today. And know that everything is going to be okay. And if it's not okay, we will make it okay? I promise you. It's a really good pep talk. It's a good one, guys. This is a good friend. I love it. And I love the fact that Paula just had something great happen in her life. And so that's part of what's happening here, is that she's just in a good place. And she is able to be positive like this because of that. It's just touching. I love it. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to wrap it up. But thank you all so much for coming in and listening and whatnot. Thank you very much to Megan for commissioning this. Appreciate it so much. This show has been a lot of fun. Real roller coaster as well. I have no idea what to expect next. Because in other episodes, it's been left like in a good enough place that I'm like, all right, well, she can pick back up after this. But I really don't know how she picks up from this. Especially because Greg also is just like, fuck this. Who knows? Who knows? All right, guys. Well, I will see you soon with a new episode. I think there's one right next week. So stay tuned for that. And until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.